Hey everybody, this is Tim with Op-Ed Daily. So I'd like to do a video about an article that I just posted on Tom Hartman's website. And I posted it on Tom Hartman's website because I've lost a lot of respect for him as a talk show host now that I see clearly how partisan this man is. Now, he's one of the most intelligent people I've ever heard speak, but intelligence can only go so far when you are so partisan that any caller that calls in wanting one candidate over another during the primary is chastised or corrected or told to, oh, you need to support both equally. I'm sorry, but that's not what this country is all about. So I posted this article, and instead of redoing it for a YouTube video, I'm just going to read it because the message is, I feel, so important that and I believe that I really nailed it with this article, and I think it's important that people listen to this point of view. And this actually, I brought this up at a Bernie Sanders debate rally the other day, the last debate that they had. A lot of people are, well, if Bernie doesn't get the nomination, at least Hillary's better than any of the Republicans out there. No, she's not. She's not. If I'm going to vote for a Republican, I'm going to vote for a Republican. I'm not going to vote for a Republican that has a D beside her name. I'm not going to vote for a Democrat that I know is actually a conservative. Not going to do it. So these are the reasons why I will never cast my vote for Hillary Clinton. I've talked about this in the past, but here we go. I've been following politics since I was about 13 years old, and I'm almost 34 years old now. I actually remember watching Bill Clinton's presidential campaign when I was 11 or so. I was allowed to stay up and watch him win the election, but the importance of it all really didn't sink in until about 2 years later. As a child, I liked Bill Clinton, largely because my mother loved Bill Clinton, and I'm sure a lot of that came from her. But fast forward 6 years later, when I turned 19 and was able to participate in my first presidential election, which was Gore versus Bush, I watched my countrymen vote for Al Gore and then watched the Supreme Court deny the popular vote and appoint George Bush president of the United States. Sickened by this revelation, I scoured books, history, constitutional law, and politics in general, only to discover that we haven't had a president actually move away from Reagan's policies since Reagan was elected before I was even born. I'm certain I'll have some of those on the left attempt to paint Bill Clinton, as some kind of progressive, or justify his signing of NAFTA, which is the North American Free Trade Agreement, as it not, they're going to justify his signing of NAFTA because it wasn't his policy, because he didn't write it. But instead, it was written by Republicans, but signed by him almost immediately after he took office. And I'm certain many on the left hold Clinton up as high as they hold Reagan. And there are many issues with anyone claiming that Clinton isn't also responsible for the disastrous trade policies implemented during his presidency, but I'm not going to get into all that here. That's not what this article is about. It is sufficient enough to bring them up in order to present the continuation of Reagan policies. After all, I believe Reagan was the first to legitimately push for a trade agreement between the U.S. and Mexico, which the Heritage Foundation ran with back in 1980. So after Clinton, there was, of course, the disastrous presidency of George Bush, who brought us into the most expensive, longest running, and most costly war of our history. Costly in terms of money, time, and reputation, arguably. Then we had a candidate rally the masses. This candidate promised great reform of policies, of our trade deals, of our love affair with big banks and Wall Street. This candidate promised hope, change, and many other progressive changes. Young people showed up in droves to support the first half-black, half-white president. Barack Obama took to the White House in historic fashion and had his work cut out for him. But instead of getting to work, we witnessed Barack Obama continue many Bush policies, which are also policies that would have been accepted by Ronald Reagan. We watched as Barack Obama pulled a 180 and handed insurance companies the biggest payday they've ever seen in the history of this nation. We watched this alleged progressive president roll over on nearly every issue brought to the floor. Then we watched him pass the Republican-tainted policies into law. We then watched him take this nation's Constitution and rip it to shreds, as we also witnessed under George W. Bush. We've witnessed the erosion of the term Democrat. Barack Obama was and is the catalyst of the destruction of what it meant to be a Democrat, at least from where I'm sitting. Being a registered Democrat and having many of my own ideologies in line with the Democratic Party, at least the party of 10 years ago, I was appalled, was disgusted, and I stopped aligning myself with the Democratic Party because I realized that oligarchs have taken over this nation, and it matters not whether these politicians call themselves a Democrat or a Republican. Since before Reagan came into office, there hasn't been one single progressive candidate take office since then. Bill Clinton was not a progressive candidate. Barack Obama is not a progressive candidate. One can even argue that Barack Obama is as conservative and as harmful to the Constitution as George W. Bush. And fast forward to now, and we have Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. Now, they call themselves something of a progressive. Sanders, much the socialist Democrat, and Clinton, the self-proclaimed progressive. But which of the two candidates is actually progressive? Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is the only candidate running that has the ideology, the drive, the conviction, and the willingness to stand up against this 30-year reign of Reaganomics and conservative politics. He's the only candidate that can, to near 100% certainty, say he maintains the same views that he's had since the beginning of his political career. But this article isn't about Bernie Sanders. It's about Hillary Clinton. So let's talk about Hillary. She is not Bill Clinton, to be fair, but she is not a progressive, to be fairer. She is part of the political establishment and has been, arguably, since she and her husband took the political realm by storm. She's mired in controversy and scandal. She has a complete willingness to bend and even break the rules in order to get the outcome she desires. Hillary Clinton is also a liar, or at the very least, a dishonest person. She's willing to switch her positions when it's politically expedient for her to do so. A trait, by the way, that is why Obama isn't well received by true progressives that don't simply vote the party line. So here's a list of things that Hillary Clinton has changed her opinions on over the years. And some of these, she's changed it multiple times. Year by year, she'll have something else that she has to say about it. She'll just flip-flop left and right. So the first is gay marriage. She changed her mind on gay marriage. One can argue that she changed it based on her constituents' changing opinion, but this list will address a pattern of political expedient flip-floppery, as I call it. The second point is immigration. In 2003, on the John Gambling Show, she openly stated her push against illegal immigrants and that we should do more to combat illegal immigration. She said, and I'm quoting here, "I am, adamantly against illegal immigrants. We've got to do more at our borders, and people have to stop employing illegal immigrants," end quote. Back then, she talked about the disasters that illegal immigration had brought to the U.S. economy. She even invited people to come up to where she was and watch as day laborers, all illegals, an implication that she made, are trucked to and from work for various jobs that hardworking Americans can do. But now, she wants basic amnesty for those that are here. Another Reagan policy. Remember, Reagan is the one that first granted amnesty. She also switched her tune on illegal immigration, she also switched her tune on illegal immigrant detention facilities that have been exploiting illegal immigrants that are caught. Her campaign has been taking money from these private, for-profit prison systems, and only recently did she announce that she would no longer accept money from them. And why? Political expedience. Again. So the third point, gun control. She has changed her overall stance subtly on gun control. She advocated for the Brady Bill, which implemented background checks for firearms purchases. But in 2008, she advocated the same position that Sanders has today, which is some areas of the country should have the option to have firearms. In some areas, shouldn't. It's up to the states. It's up to the locations. But where is she today? She advocates a plethora of gun bans for various individuals throughout the nation based largely upon emotional, knee-jerk responses of certain types of crimes. She advocates for the inability of people to obtain a firearm who are on the equally arbitrary no-fly list. The fourth point is the Trans-Pacific Partnership. She's changed her stance on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The Trans-Pacific Partnership is a disastrous trade deal that makes NAFTA look like a barter system and includes provisions that essentially neuter Americans' ability to pass laws that restrict business. She initially called for the need of a free and or fair trade agreement. Again, these are Reagan policies that are being pushed by Obama, supported only by Republicans, but are being rammed through by the top Democrats. She supported it as Secretary of State, but after her campaign began to really kick into gear, she came out against it. She and Obama pushed for changes in the South Korean trade agreement, which she thought was great, until she started running for president, and now she says it hasn't had the desired effect, which is quite odd given that no free trade or fair trade agreement that this nation has implemented has done anything beneficial for this nation that I can see, and most economists agree with me on this stance. The fifth point, mandatory minimum sentencing. And this one's probably the most funny. She changed her stance on mandatory minimums. In 2008, while running against Barack Obama, she called him, quote, well, not quote, I'm paraphrasing here, too liberal to be elected president, because of his opposition to mandatory minimum sentencing laws. She was in favor of them in 2008. And because Obama was opposed to them, he was too liberal. But now, her rhetoric has turned a 180, and she released a head-scratching quote when she said this at Columbia University. Quote, measures that I and so many others have championed to reform arbitrary mandatory minimum sentences are long overdue, end quote. We have since witnessed a reduction in mandatory minimum sentences, but Eric Holder, an appointee of Obama, did not actively endorse granting retroactive changes in sentencing, and even offered up a plan that did less than what the Sentencing Commission actually ended up with. Obama didn't champion the retroactive reduction in mandatory minimums for those already convicted, but instead pushed for future drug charges to be reduced. Clinton is now claiming to be more liberal than Obama on mandatory minimums when not 8 years ago she exclaimed he was too liberal on the issue. The 6 points, the Keystone Pipeline. The Keystone Pipeline, she argues that this obvious switch in ideology, like she claims that she never switched her stance on it. But at the Commonwealth Country Club in San Francisco back in 2012, she stated that she was inclined to approve the pipeline so that we might continue importing much-needed oil from a, quote, friendly nation, which was Canada. When that got out, she backtracked and said she took no position on it until she takes a position on it. And now she's against the pipeline. Now, I'm going to stop there. I could have put in the Iraq war, but let's face it, everybody knows that she voted for it, and now she's against it. We all know that. That's nothing really to point out. And literally, I could go on all day about the changes in ideology that we've seen from Hillary Clinton, but I believe this list to be sufficient evidence of her extreme ability to switch issues based on whichever is politically expedient, which is precisely what we witnessed with Obama. Obama campaigned on one platform, but immediately after becoming president, he stepped off that platform, did a hop, skip, jump, and a clap as he ran to another, more conservative, more Reagan-Bush-like platform. Why would he do that? Because he, along with Hillary Clinton, George Bush, Bill Clinton, Bush Sr., and Ronald Reagan are all part of the upper echelon of government. They aren't there because they are or were president. They became president because they were willing to play the game and were selected by the oligarchs as corporate spokespeople to push corporate agendas. And guess who else is part of that speakeasy, backdoor, closed-door individuals? Hillary Clinton. Who isn't? Bernie Sanders. This is why the media has shut Bernie Sanders out for all intents and purposes, and is why we see media bias towards Hillary Clinton. This is also mostly why we see over half the superdelegates having already placed temporary support for Hillary Clinton. Knowing what I know about Hillary Clinton, and knowing that without a shadow of a doubt, she will immediately pull away from progressive policies and push for Reagan-Bush-like policies, I cannot, in good conscience, vote for Hillary Clinton. I will not cast a vote for her because she is a wolf in sheep's clothing. She says whatever she thinks she needs to say in order to gain support of those on the left end of the political spectrum. But when it comes down to it, the people she truly supports are the ones filling her pockets with millions of campaign donations. I came to Tom Hartman's website to write this article because I've respected Tom for so many years, but I have lost a lot of respect for him over these last few weeks. Tom has been correcting, chastising, and hanging up on callers that make the same statements that I make about Hillary Clinton, albeit not in as much detail as I've laid out here. Any caller that says anything that shows bias towards Bernie Sanders gets corrected or chastised by Tom Hartman, who then claims we need to support both, but we absolutely do not. Keep in mind that there are many callers every single day on his talk show that support Bernie Sanders more than Hillary, arguably more callers than do support Hillary over Sanders. Because of the party line politics that Tom Hartman has placed himself in, I've lost a lot of respect for one of this nation's most intelligent people, at least in my opinion he is. The precise reason I will vote Republican if Bernie Sanders loses the primary or gets screwed by the superdelegates, which is possible, it would be historic, but it's still possible, is that if this nation is going to crumble, and I believe that one more presidential term of conservative politics will lead to our demise, I'd much prefer it be under the watch of a Republican, not someone claiming to be a Democrat. I have witnessed Republicans scold Obama for pushing policies that are more conservative than even Bush could muster. I've witnessed Republicans call him a socialist when he, Obama, is more conservative in his presidency than some Republicans. Why did they do this when he pushes and continues to push policies? Because they are playing party politics. To them, it doesn't matter what his ideology is. He's got a D beside his name, and they're trying to protect the R beside theirs. They will never acknowledge things they agree with coming from a D because on paper, it's still a D in the White House and not an R. This is true for most, not all issues, where Obama and the Republicans see eye to eye. The TPP comes to mind there because the Republicans are pushing almost all of the Republicans are for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, as well as Obama. Almost all of the Democrats are against it. So that's why I'm begging Tom Hartman to stop playing party politics. A vote for Hillary is not a vote for the Democratic Party. It is not a vote for progressivism. It's not a vote for socialistic tendencies. A vote for Hillary is a vote for Reagan, Bush-like ideologies that have brought this country to its knees over the last 30 years. This nation cannot afford another Bush, Reagan, or Obama. Let's stop pretending Hillary is a progressive, and let's call her out for exactly what she is, a liar, or at least a dishonest person, a politician of expedience, and someone more willing to change positions at the drop of a hat, which leads me to believe she will lie to get into office, then turn around and push the Reagan-Bush agendas. It is for these reasons I will never cast a vote for Hillary Clinton, even if she is the Democratic nominee. Now, that's the article that I wrote over on Tom Hartman. I believe that it is an important point to make here. If we're going to let this country crash and burn from more conservative policies, because honestly, that's basically all we've received over the last 30 years, Republican policies, conservative policies, Reagan policies. And that's what brought us here today. That's why this country is suffering in such a horrible way. We cannot take any more of those conservative policies. And I'll be damned if I'm going to put a person claiming to be a Democrat in office that's actually Republican. With Barack Obama, people didn't know him well enough. He wasn't politically active enough prior to his run for president. He didn't really have much of a voting record at that point. So a lot of people got duped by him, including myself. I was duped by Obama. I believed what Obama said. I voted for Obama. But then I was disgusted by that piece of shit. He did nothing of what he said he was going to do. Almost nothing. He has pushed Republican conservative policies the entire time he's been in office. And these people on the left continue to try and justify the things that he does and say that he is a Democrat when he is not a Democrat. They simply are playing party politics. When you have your blinders on and somebody says, hey, I'm a Democrat, that doesn't mean they're a Democrat. The same goes for a drag queen. She may look like a girl, she may have boobs, but if she's got a penis, she's a dude. And no amount of I'm a woman's going to make other people look at her like she's not a dude. Because as soon as you strip all of that outer stuff off, all the makeup, all the stuff that they pretty themselves up with, underneath it all, still a dude. Now, this is nothing that's no swipe against drag queens. I think drag queens are hilarious. I've got drag queen friends. They crack me up all the time, but that's not the point here. That's not the point I'm trying to make. You cannot judge a book by what it says it is. You have to judge a book by what it is. And Hillary Clinton is not a Democrat. Hillary Clinton is not a progressive. No way, shape, or form is she a progressive. She's got her head shoved so far up Wall Street's ass and the bankster's ass that you cannot tell where she ends and they begin. And that's just a fact. So I hope that everybody can see right through that, and I hope everybody gets out there in the primary and votes for Bernie Sanders for the Democratic nomination on such a level that those superdelegates cannot come into play. That's what I hope. And I also hope the left-wing radio host stop pushing this lie that Hillary Clinton is somehow a progressive candidate. She's not. They are just as bad as the Republicans that they bitch about. And that's all I've got to say about that for now. Anyway, please let me know what you think in the comment section. I'll try to remember and leave a link to the Tom Hartman website so that you can read the article and comment on it there if you want to. Anyway, if you agree, disagree, please let me know. Hit the like button and please share this video because I really want people to realize what kind of a thing Hillary Clinton is. She is a disaster, is what she is. Anyway, that's it for now. This is Tim with Op-Ed Daily. Peace out.